Hello, everyone, and welcome to the March 30th SIG ContribEx biweekly meeting. I'll be your host today, Bob Killen, one of the co-chairs of the SIG. As a general reminder, these calls are recorded and will be posted to the internet at some point later. And we all abide by the CNCF Code of Conduct, which essentially boils down to please be excellent to each other. I will drop a link again to the notes in chat. And if anyone wouldn't mind volunteering to be a note taker, that would be super awesome. Otherwise, we can all play multiplayer Notepad. Okay,
yeah, I think it's going to be multiplayer. I'm on the bike, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not 100%, so let's do a multiplayer.
Okay. We'll kick it off with events and office hours. We are not at this point transitioning it to the CNCF, but I don't have a status update on it.
David is in another meeting right now.
Okay.
I can ask him for updates. Give me a minute.
What was the reasoning behind not going to CNCF?
Right now, they're like CNCF TV is in a weird place.
Yeah, I know.
So maybe it'll still wind up there in the future, but for at least right now, it's going to remain in Kubernetes.
Fair enough.
And it's okay, Laura, if there's no real update there. It's not.
Yeah, there's no real update on the community meeting. There are quite a few conversations happening in Slack about various ways to collect topics. There is I have to find it. There is a issue open for someone to work on a Slack bot that pulls up conversations from Slack. So that is in the works, and I also owe a PR about getting labels on GitHub issues. So those were the two big ones that came out from a lot of various discussions, and hopefully that will help surface it. We've kind of covered this quite a bit in various other prior meetings and Slack and so
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff there. There is a PR that I need to open for roles though. And the YouTube admins and Zoom folks all got us all together so that we now have Zoom straight to YouTube all set to go for next time.
Cool. Mm-hmm. That is good to hear. Yeah, sorry, Josh.
I would say there's one incidental thing on the community meeting, which is we have a transcript and a copy of all of the comments from the last community meeting, and it's not clear where we could post those, that the community could get access to them.
So the transcripts are really helpful with posting them to YouTube for the closed captions. You can just take that file and use that for the YouTube closed captions. And then sometimes like I'll post comments for other meetings, but often like there'll be like a Slack thread. There's like, okay, comments from today's community meeting, and it has like the timestamps on it. But a lot of times like there isn't a lot of useful stuff that comes out of the comments in my experience.
Well, in this case, we had that extensive discussion about reliability, and it was too fast for a note taker to keep up with. So we want to make both of those things. The closed caption thing is good, but we also want to make both those things available as text files. And there's just no obvious place to put them.
So real quick, before we kind of go down the rabbit hole here, I asked, what's his name? Only Dole on Slack. I asked him to drop it in Taylor. Thank you. I asked him to drop it in a Google Drive that we can share. And then that just needs to get summarized into the forum post with the rest of the notes into the notes, etc. So that's just the current state of that. I do agree that we need a general place to put all of this though. And I guess that's kind of a question of, I don't really know how to create a folder in the contributor, well, the wider Kubernetes drive.
So
Because I'd
for-
rather it not be owned by somebody, because I think we've run into this so much in the past. It'd be better to have it live in the upstream drive,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
if we want to put them in the drive, that like it's easy for any of the SIG ContribEx leads to create a
cool.
folder. The one thing would be the decision would be to either put it there or commit it in Git someplace.
If we're going to put it in Git, then
Mm.
we need to disable the spell check.
Yeah, and we can do that at a directory level, so that's not
Okay.
hard.
Yeah. I think it makes more sense to store it in a Google Drive, because the notes should be the source of truth, I think. Even if we update the notes afterwards, after we've gotten a chance to parse the chat log for any relevant comments, I'd rather do that than kind of dump raw data like that into Git, when it could easily be something that we could link to on the
Okay.
drive. I think that makes more sense just for the long term, personally.
Yeah, it could be just a follow-up action to update the community meeting notes with just like link to recording, link to transcription, transcript.
Yep. Yeah. And a side note, I do have on my notes too, when I do put out the role information, I think we're going to turn on that transcription now that Zoom has it for good. Like just every time you start the meeting, start the transcript. That's just on the host. It definitely was something people were really pleased that we turn on. I didn't even know it was there. So when somebody requested it, I was like, oh yeah, let's do that button. So I very much appreciated knowing it was there.
It's not there like in the free version or anything like that, or it defaults to make someone a transcriptionist and they can do it live.
Yeah,
but because we're on the higher tier, we get it.
Yeah, it let us. So I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Let's do that. I like making it more accessible. So
the big thing is just we
really
need
cool.
to make sure like it is started and stopped when the recording is started and stopped.
Yeah. So that is to come in said PR to make sure that we write it down. So I will reach out in Slack to ask for a drive where we can drop those.
Yeah. I'm in meetings this afternoon for a good chunk, but like just ping me later and I can
Sure.
like it takes 30 seconds.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I won't leave a random note in chat then. I will wait and ping you later. So good deal. Those are the updates. Nothing else. Also, I did just get a hold of David real quick on the office hours. He said that Carlos will be taking over soon. His first solo office hours was last month. He's going to iterate, bring on a second host. So it looks like Carlos will be taking over ownership of that.
Cool. Any other questions, comments, thoughts regarding the community meeting? Okay, that takes us over to Contributor Summit. We have started regular meetings. The last one happened this past Monday. I think we are still looking for someone that might want to lead content for it. The summit itself is going to be relatively low key, like NA was. There will be a few separate rooms if SIGs do want to potentially use space. And as far as content goes, I think it was mostly an unconference organizer. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, that's correct.
Think
Right
so.
now, we're waiting to see if my travel can get approved. If it is, then I'm gonna do the content lead. And if not, then we'll find someone else.
Cool. It's on me to stub out the website, but we'll have that done either later today or tomorrow. And after that, it will be like everyone will start seeing the regular comms going on about it. Anyone else?
Is that going to be part of contributor site?
Yes. So it'll be kates.dev/summit. That will always go to the most recent contributor summit.
Okay.
Like we are permanently doing any of our events will live on kates.dev.
Okay. Please tag me on Slack as soon as you get a draft and I'll go ahead and go through it.
Okay. Um, anyone else that was at that meeting remember any highlights?
We've decided on a venue for the social, which to warn
Oh, we did.
anybody here who's going, because of the layout of Valencia is we're gonna actually have to have a bus to take people there. There just wasn't anything that was in walking distance.
Yeah.
And we'll do at least board games there, and maybe I'll come up with other ideas. I'm gonna throw it out on Slack here.
Okay. Are there any other questions, comments regarding the actually, we also have to discuss the space that we want for North America. The timeline to get our room reservations in is mid-April, so we definitely will talk about this again. But at this point, I am thinking NA will wind up being like one of the old real, in-person ones. But we are still not planning on doing a new contributor workshop for that. So that removes 150, 200 people from our attendance. So I think the big thing in terms of space is trying to get an estimate on how many will actually be at North America. My gut is leaning in the 300 range, but it also could be.
We haven't. It's a long way off, Bob. I mean,
yeah,
there's so many variables right now.
We'll see what the COVID wave in summer happens. How that is. Like everyone I've talked to is itching to come to one again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like universally people want to do it. It's just sometimes it's not reality.
So in the meantime, we'll skip thinking about the actual space and all that for this one, but like start trying to like think about for the next meeting, start trying to think about what we should really go for.
God, we had so many rooms in San Diego too.
Yep. I was thinking, honestly, like San Diego minus 2 rooms, which we used for the
NCW
contributor stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I don't know if we'll need as large a room as that main room we had.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. I don't
know.
know.
That room, it was just the room that was like available there.
Right, like it was huge.
Yeah,
I think we only used half of it.
I honestly don't remember like how many rooms are their size for what San Diego was, but can go back and look that sort of stuff up.
Yeah, I'm
for now, everyone just like start thinking about what that will wind up looking like.
I know this isn't technically part of the contributor summit, but is there any way when we do get to it to also ask not to have the room for the like meet our contributors, sign up to be part of a SIG, like not so far away from the main venue? Because we got a lot of people at wherever we just were for 2021 LA, but it definitely was a long walk, and a lot of people were like, wow, I didn't know you were here.
The reason for that was because it was a late request.
Yeah, that's fair.
So as now that like our modus operandi for that is to be a part of the main KubeCon, I don't think we'll have to worry too much about it.
Cool beans. I just wanted to bring that up because I just remember so many people come into the room. They were like, wow, I had trouble finding you. I'm like, you found us though.
Okay. Any other questions, comments regarding the contributor summit?
I guess the other question is who's going to head up the contributor summit for
Yeah.
Detroit?
Oh, that's home turf. Me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You and Jeef.
Yes. And George.
Okay.
George will be making a guest appearance for this one.
Oh, really? Wow.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Okay. Let me know if you need help.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. But we already have like ideas for
Nice.
like the social location,
Beautiful.
as and a whole slew of other things. Okay. Any other summit related things? Okay.
Not really, other than, in your other dealings, try to make people aware that it's actually happening. We've been messaging in all of the various platforms, but
Yeah, I think once I
course.
stub the site and we get that initial message out, that
Yeah.
will
Okay.
start the ball rolling.
Mhm.
I've been pinging, like I dropped a note in the Contributor Summit channel in Slack, and like I've pinged folk internally, like, hey, this is going to happen. So when you're booking your travel,
Yeah, we should have registration up in the next couple of days.
Okay. With that, onto mentoring. Can anyone speak about meet our contributors or anything else in here?
For new contributor workshop for Detroit, we were actually talking about the possibility of having a much shorter introduction to contributing in Kubernetes. That would be the day after the contributor summit, if we can get a room.
Mm-hmm.
So like an hour and a half thing. That wouldn't be part of the main contributor summit.
Okay. As long as we aren't having to like manage reg or do anything else like that with that, because there was a lot of override with that. The other general concern I have is like if it's going to be demo hands-on-y, then we're going to have the same issues we've had previously.
Right, which is one of the reasons to make it shorter, right?
Yeah. But yeah, if there's enough people and we can get an idea of what it looks like, I'm happy to support that.
Yeah, no, this would be more of just taking some of the orientation portions that we need, like what is a SIG and why do you need to interact with one, and and how do approvals work, etc. And maybe introducing people to things like the experimental repo without necessarily going through it hands-on.
Okay.
Because we have all of those network problems. But there's a lot of orientation we could do in an hour and a half, and it's not a huge commitment for whoever's running it to do that level of introduction.
Yep.
And we had requests, including from some new contributors who thought that would be a good thing to do.
Okay.
And it feels worthy of experimenting with that as sort of a different format.
Yeah, I'm happy to give it a shot. I'm sure we can get space for it on the following day.
Yeah. And that way we also don't have the issue with people signing up for the new contributor workshop in order to get into the contributor party.
Yep.
Great.
And other people taking other people's swag.
Yep.
Okay. What is a PR for third-party mentorship lead role?
Okay, so this was a request by Paris regarding we have a lot of third-party mentorship programs that come up all around the year, like GSOC. What the problem is now is we are relying on CNC people like Ihor and Nat to help us with the dates and proposals. So there was a suggestion if we could have a role inherently in SIG ContribEx who would reach out to SIGs for proposals during the proposal time period, or guiding the new contributors that are coming up through this mentorship program and not leaving the program after this things. So this role was basically around that. Yeah, regarding that.
Okay. One thing I would definitely mention with this in terms of like trying to organize it around specific timeframes. We've had a lot of conversations in the past about this. Like it's everyone should like try and poke people about getting proposals in, and then if it doesn't make it for like GSOC, then it should be like automatically applied to LFX or something like that. Because if you're trying to like ping the leads every single time, it's like for proposals, they'll honestly probably wind up like
basically it's not about pinging the SIG leads or chairs. It's about making aware, because this time what we saw in LFX mentorship, it was last minute, everyone was getting aware about it, and a lot of proposals coming even after the day. There is a lot of lack of communication with from the CNCF to the people inside the community, because there is a lot of place where the help is required, but it is not identified, and mostly the maintainers don't know at times about these programs or the dates of these programs. So basically to help them with that.
Okay. Mostly I just want to make sure we're proactive with like getting them to come up with ideas, even if there isn't necessarily something immediately like a mentor program immediately available, and sort of build up the pool of ideas around it. And then, most like if something coincides with like code freeze or something like that too, you're never going to get any response from any of the SIG leads.
Yeah, got it.
Okay, that's at least my personal suggestion on part of that role. Does anyone else have any thoughts or questions regarding this role? Okay, we'll move on. Or how about mentoring in general? Okay, we will move on to community management. Nigel.
Hello. Yeah, so still the everlasting issue of YouTube automation. What do we do? And part of the interesting thing about the time it's been taking me to kind of sort things out is watching how things work now. And for all of the justified complaining about how it works, it seems like we do have a system in place that is functioning for the
functioning
for well, okay, so what I'm trying to say is that like for like the parts that break, I'm wondering if it has all been like issues with naming, because that's been some of the ones that I've seen.
No,
okay, go ahead.
So Splane itself is not reliable. It will just randomly stop, like same meeting, nothing changed. It will just stop.
Okay.
And the only way you notice that is mostly the people like, hey, I had someone say like, we haven't seen meetings come in like 3 months. And the only way that mostly works is to create a new Zoom meeting. I have spent hours back and forth with Splane on this.
Okay.
And they basically do nothing.
Okay.
Is there do other tools exist?
Yes. Exploring those now. And so one of the ones that has been working in like my demos off of the, I'm sure things are going to be different like on the Kubernetes Zoom account, because there's so many different people like creating meetings as opposed to like when I'm testing on mine, it's just one. But I want to have a sync with Marky right now, who's been doing a lot of the auditing of the videos to get them posted to YouTube and figure out what the pain points are there. And then before like gutting Splane, I guess like just trying to find like a gentle way to make a transition.
I would not trust like Splane at all.
Okay.
It has proven unreliable time and time again.
Okay.
Like we had multiple SIGs that were using it, and then even trying to like spinning up new meetings and everything, it works for a couple weeks,
Okay.
and then it stops
Okay.
again.
I did not realize that. All right. So then ignore my comment about changing the naming stuff, because I thought like for the ones that I had seen, it had been like, oh, something changed with the meeting name. And if we name it just the right way, because that's like been like one of the things with if this then that is that like it bugs out if you like misplace a character or something like that. And so like to have like some way to enforce people creating meetings, that was like my hesitation with that one. But yeah, I will go back to the drawing board.
Yeah. We did have some like okayish luck with Zapier and dumping into Google Drive and then setting up another thing to go from Google
Yeah.
Drive to YouTube.
Yeah. And so that one I have tried. And that one's we wouldn't be able to do it on the free tier. So we'd have to figure
Okay.
out some
That doesn't
sort of,
matter. Like we can put in
Okay.
a funding request to get money for it.
All right, I'll do another test with Zapier, and this time on because I did it on my personal one, but this time
Okay.
I'll do it on like the Kubernetes one. I'll get credentials from Paris and like try it out and see how. I think that Zapier is just in general more reliable than Splane. But yeah, let me do some more testing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what about that step of posting it to YouTube from the G Drive? Is that something that could be reliably automated?
Yeah, that's Zapier can do both of those things.
Okay.
It's the going directly from Zoom to YouTube that's hard. Both have like lots of things actually have things where I can go from like Zoom to Google Drive and then like Google Drive to YouTube. It's just the direct route that's the problem.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Any other thoughts on the YouTube automation? Or any other community management topics?
What does Kubernetes have a calendar? Sorry, I forget. There's so many freak calendars.
There is.
I know there's a CNCF public calendar.
So
I know there's a calendar we aggregate on the dev site.
That's the only one.
Okay.
Kubernetes itself does not have there's the aggregate one, and that is that.
So how do I add something to that? Carlos is asking.
Then we put it on the ContribEx calendar or another calendar as
Cool.
long as it and it will wind up there.
Cool.
Ray?
Yeah, I thought there was a Kubernetes community calendar because one of the
There used to be, and that was a huge problem.
Oh, it's not there. Okay, because I was inviting that calendar to like release meetings and to like docs meetings, as part of the process goes. But
Yep, Nigel, that is the aggregate, and there is a Google account associated with that calendar, but like, do not invite any community one. As long as it goes to the SIG lists, the event will wind up on the shared calendar.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah. So as that is the
official way
of doing stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. Part of the problem with like when we had the other calendar is like lots of people would like external people would spam it. And there were like just all sorts, and it was just a huge pain because lots of people would forget to invite the calendar to events. Or like they moved a meeting and never re-invited the or like updated that thing. It's why we moved to the just like, as long as everything goes to the SIG lists, it will bubble up.
Cool.
Okay. Any other community management type stuff?
feel like we should share that calendar information with the wider community
Yeah.
somehow.
The general guide, like on some that is in the calendar guidelines, but like Chris, you and I talked a little bit ago, like the actual how to get it on there is explicitly not documented.
Yeah. The whole calendar space is just confusing to me in general, because basically it's like, SIG, if you have a calendar, we'll pick it up. But if you don't, then what? So yeah.
That's like any calendar invites should be tied to a SIGger working group. That's the big thing.
Cool. I think just putting that guidance out in general would be helpful. Like just literally that last sentence you said. Wow.
Just invite your SIG list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That part I do think is in our calendar guidelines, but it's buried in like how to set up a meeting.
Yeah, I was just more thinking this is different than how it used to work. And I doubt most of our contributors are aware of how it works now.
This has been the way it's worked for the past 2.5 years.
Yeah.
I think. I know it's been at least the past 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just saying the change was never really announced. So it would be good to.
I think it was sent to the leads list.
Yeah.
But it's always good to send updated refreshes on this stuff. Let's see. Yep, just about 2 years. Okay. Back on. Okay, so is there any other like community management type stuff? Okay, marketing, Chris.
Yeah, tweets galore. The code freeze tweet went out. The survey tweet went out a while back. I see your request for more signal boost on the release cadence survey. Josh, I'm going to give you a huge signal boost by putting it in the AWS EKS 122 blog post. So, but I will also do social as well.
Yeah, they just want to collect. They're at like whatever it is, 68 respondees, and they'd like to get a few more.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
That one's for end users, right?
End users, I've got it right.
Or anybody who oversees end users.
Okay.
So
yeah,
also
like,
vendors.
So yeah, we should send that. We should share that out with like the CNCF end user list. I can do that, and then maybe Cube Weekly.
Yeah. Oh, I should actually share it out with ambassadors too.
I can do that real quick.
Yeah, it's already been in LWKD, but that's strictly
Cube
contributors.
Weekly,
So
let me ask real quick about Cube Weekly. I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah, because that has pretty wide reach.
Mm-hmm. What was it? I think they said it was in the tens of thousands for subscribers last time I asked.
Yeah.
So
and we can ask to put that like at the top as something.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Got it.
Thank you.
No problem. Making my to-do list. But yeah, other than that, everything's going well. Got some new people showing up. So
nice.
Thanks for coming. And thanks for working with us.
Yeah, one other survey related request, just because this is going to be complicated or going to be something we haven't done before. SIG Release wants to specifically survey vendors and very large users, in some way that they can get kind of an official response from those organizations. Basically, this is about renaming master branch, and they want to know how much stuff this is going to break for people with large deployments. Do we have any pre-existing way to reach those people? Because the problem with just doing our regular survey broadcast and stuff is you get a bunch of random people. You would get, 100 responses from assorted Red Hat and VMware employees, which is not really what they want.
I honestly, I would lean on at least most of the vendors. We send it out internally, or into like the leads list or something like that. And like, hey, all of you work for, well, most of the folk work for someone that is invested in Kubernetes in some way, shape, or form. Like, even if it's not like, it doesn't even necessarily have to be like a like survey. It could be post on a response on an issue, maybe.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons we wanted to do it, they wanted to do it as a survey, is they wanted to allow people to reply semi-confidentially.
Okay.
Because the worry is that vendors might not be willing to say something like, actually, our CI is really, really complicated, and so this is actually going to be really hard for us in a public forum.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I would probably lean on the leads list.
Okay.
And be like, if you can get a response and have like one or two people from each company respond. And like here, I could reach out internally for Google. Chris, I know you could do Amazon.
Yeah.
Josh, Red Hat.
Yep.
That's we can. Nigel, VMware. We got a pretty good coverage of at least the big folk. That might be another thing, is just like individually reaching out to, like, it doesn't get end users, but it gets all the big companies that are contributing to the project.
Yeah, the end users is a little bit more complicated, because obviously who they want to target is end users who maintain their own Kubernetes off of upstream rather than using a vendor's distro.
Yeah.
And we know who some of the biggest ones are, but we don't necessarily know anyone else.
Right.
Ray?
Yeah, I believe there is a place in the CNCF landscape that has vendors or distributors that I don't know how about going into and there's a bunch of smaller ones listed there, but I don't know about like contact info, like how we go about contacting.
We're going to ask the CNCF landscape folks, which is a group.
I mean, CNCF marketing is a thing too, so
yeah,
they would be able to get a message out to all the big companies.
Well, let's look at the platinum end users.
Yeah,
and the gold end users.
Yeah.
That might be another tactic. And then the end user Slack channel, most of the people that are in there aren't necessarily like super large clusters, but they at least have some significant investment in
on our Slack or on CNCF?
CNCF. So there's an invite only end user channel.
Okay. Ooh.
That if you're an end user group, your representative is invited to that one.
Interesting.
I am still in it because I was invited back to my University of Michigan days. Never removed. Okay. So is that everything for marketing, or is there any other questions, comments, thoughts?
Deba, unless you have something, I got nothing else.
No, that's it.
Anybody else need anything from us? Making a list, writing stuff down here.
The biggest thing will just be the summit stuff once that starts kicking up.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to contributor docs. Contributor guide. There's a whole bunch of PR reviews, follow-up PR reviews that oh yeah.
Actually, I think the list is getting pretty short. I have one that needs a couple of reviews. I had a really stupid question that I just asked that Josh just answered me on, so I can finish fixing that one. And I think we're getting really close to getting all of those reviews done.
Yep. So we're moving the contributor guide folder over to the contributor site.
Eventually, I don't know what the process on that is. I think Bob's in charge of that.
So
Okay.
that one we Josh, you have the issue that was opened.
Well, I have the issue that we should expose everything to the contributor site, but that's kind of a
Yes.
longer term issue. And as you pointed out, whether or not we move this specific folder doesn't affect that one way or the other. So it was more that if people agree with the idea that we should expose everything via the contributor site, then teams working on stuff can expose it anytime they want to.
Right. Is there going to be some sort of, I don't know, documentation freeze process before we move the folder? How do we move the folder without?
So I still have to get send something to the mailing list to get sign off for moving it. I think folks, at least from the issue, were generally okay with the idea of moving just the contributor guide, at least to start. And from there, it's get sign off from all the SIG ContribEx leads and see if anyone has comments from the broader community. I am hoping we won't have too many issues, but that is something I would very much like to do. And as we can move it and still preserve Git history and all that. So that's not an issue.
Okay, cool. How do you wait? Does Git support that? How do you move? I guess that's a question for another place.
There's a little bit of a Kansas City shuffle in there, but you can do it.
Well, it's got to be Kansas City.
I'm assuming it's some sort of barbecue reference.
I'm totally blanking on the movie, but it's a movie reference.
Yeah.
It's Lucky Number 11.
Maybe. Terrible movies.
Yeah. Anyway, I will try and start that conversation going again on the mailing list. And go from there. Beyond that, are there any other docs updates? Eric, are you waiting on any more?
I'm a little behind on my spreadsheet. I think I have a couple other documents that are going to get some updates, and I still have a plan to do sort of a big restructuring of the help wanted document, which
What was the most scattered?
Well, Paris had this really good idea of kind of like splitting it into two documents, where one of them is how to get the help you want, and one of them is geared towards like people who want to help and need their like first issue to work on, like what to look for,
Okay.
So I don't think it'll be super major, but I think it will be super helpful, and it'll give new contributors like a much quicker get started path.
Okay. Madhav?
Yeah, so I just wanted to add one thing here, like a big plus one to splitting the doc, mainly because now, especially as the code freeze was approaching over the past few weeks, there were a lot of things that went on fire. And because of that, there was a lot of help needed. And the help wanted label each SIG has its own interpretation of it, which again leads to, I'm sorry about the background noise, which again leads to, contributors be getting confused. Like, is this something that, the documentation says a beginner friendly help wanted issue is something that I can help out with if I've solved one good first issue or two good first issues or whatever. But most SIGs don't really take that into account. And we've made efforts in the past, right? Like, whenever you apply the help wanted label, the bot gives you a summary of guidelines saying, this is what a help wanted issue should have, but I don't think that's being looked at as well. So I don't know if a whole other label is required, because like help wanted is, it's stretched out far too thin for like each SIG to have its own interpretation at this point. But we can for sure start with splitting the doc. Like that's definitely a step in the right direction.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you got Madhav, if you have any feedback on it, ping me on Slack, like send me a message about stuff.
Oh, for sure. Thanks for it.
But yeah, I think that's all I've got to report this week.
Okay. Are there any other docs related questions at this point in time? Okay, then we'll move over to GitHub management. The big thing some of you might have seen, Eric and Aaron are going to be stepping down as GitHub admins, and Nabarun and sorry about that. Arnaud are going, well, we have put out lazy consensus to +1 on them stepping up to be GitHub admins. And then we will work on backfilling the new contributor or new member coordinator roles. If this is something you are interested in, please reach out to like one of the GitHub admins. It's essentially processing and verifying people's org membership requests, and then opening up PRs against K-org to add them appropriately. There's also some work going on to help automate this process, because it is a little bit of manual work right now. But it is I actually have to say it's like a pretty fulfilling role, because you're sort of helping people get into the project. Does anyone have any other items for GitHub management or any questions on those two things?
Like, do they need more help or anything? Or do they have, you feel like what are sufficient?
Oh,
things?
no, there definitely needs to be more help on the new member coordinator front. And
Okay.
The big thing is like, it is a high trust position. And
right.
Since you are directly adding people to orgs and teams, we do have a pretty good like rubric of what, what's required to be like an org member and all that. Yeah, if anyone has any like questions about that role, please hop into like GitHub management, or ping me or one of the other GitHub admins directly. I'm happy to talk about that further. I'd say like it's realistically probably like an hour of work a week.
All right, who do I need to talk to? I can do that. That's easy.
Yeah, we can talk in GitHub admins.
Cool.
Josh, you just added something for Electo. Sorry, this is jumping ahead to open mic.
Yeah, just a brief note so people know what the status is. Right now I'm working with an intern on overhauling some portions of Electo that our security committee identified as problematic, as well as finishing the administration documentation. So forming, the PR for the election sub-project is pending that. not because it's dependency, but because I only have so much time to spend on elections in a week. And we only have the intern for another 3 weeks. So
Priorities.
yep. And then I'll actually move to form that. It actually makes technical sense to move things around for the sub project at the same time that we redeploy Electo, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do things in this order.
Okay. Cool. Does anyone have any thoughts or comments on that? Then I think we are done, coming in just down to the wire with a couple minutes left. So thank you, everyone. If you want to follow up further, please ping in the Slack channel, and I will see you all around the internet.
Thanks, Bob.
Yep. Later.